Hi, everyone. This is Kelly Rainwater, the founder of the Institute of Applied Organizational Design and Transformation. Last week, I shared a video with you that we were taking our offerings online, and I'm very proud to share with you today our first master tips and techniques with our guest, Tessa Hoskin, who will be sharing her experiences of over 20 years with transformation in different industries, in many different situations, many types of transformations. We're very lucky to have you. Thank you, Tessa, for being here today.
Thank you. Yes, glad to be here.
And we'll also be going through a few of the offerings, a new exciting launch of our website that will be happening this week with the Institute, and how you can sign up for our online courses and our exclusive 9-month cohort where you can get your certificate in organizational design and transformation. So let's turn it over to Tessa. Tessa, tell us a little bit about yourself and your background. Before that, Tessa and I worked together at a really large company on a very, very difficult redesign for at least a year we worked together. And Tessa was one of the most gifted program managers and designers. She was an executive leading the design of a very large team. And I was incredibly impressed, and we stayed in touch for years. I've learned a lot from Tessa. We share tips and techniques. So who better to start us off but Tessa Hoskin. So tell us a bit about yourself.
Hi, Tessa Hoskin here. I am a business and technology executive that's been in the business and doing transformations of all sorts for over 20 years. And I've done that through via business acquisitions, merger acquisitions, integrations, program management, continuous improvement, and business strategy. And so I've been in all industries, pretty much everything from petrochem to telecom, defense, healthcare, and even fintech and more. And so I have led over, I'd say 30 plus transformations, with over half of those being anywhere at an enterprise or corporate or even global level. Wow. So been in the business for some time, and have gone through the good, the bad, and the ugly when it comes to transformation. So again, working with Kelly was definitely a blessing, and I've learned a lot from her as well, and I'm happy to be here.
Awesome. And I think you like myself, you went to school in Texas.
I did. I do. I have an undergrad in electrical engineering from McNeese State University, which is in Louisiana. I did my executive MBA with SMU. Everybody, pony up. And have a bunch of certifications: PMP, Lean Six Sigma Black Belt, Earned Value Management Certified, Agile trained, Lean Portfolio Management trained. So I've done a lot over the years to not only get the credibility, but I always want to make sure that I was able to mentor others and to also coach others through it, which I've done and have taught others, but also making sure I have the credibility to make sure that sustainable change happens and making money for organizations, which I've been able to do over the years. I mentor a lot of young junior employees, even up to senior executives, even above my pay grade, as well as, author the book, and also sit on a few boards, especially for SMU.
Wow.
And yeah, definitely. And also do a lot of motivational speaking for women in leadership, diversity in leadership, and more. So happy to be here, and let's talk transformation.
All right. Well, let's jump into the first question. You and I were talking about what is transformational leadership. We hear that term thrown around all the time. Probably has a million definitions if you look at it. But in your experience, what is it exactly?
Well, this is where, you have the leadership style of going in and being and encouraging, inspirational, and really backing and motivating and backing your employees to basically carry forth any type of, I hate to use the word change because it sounds so harsh. I started using the word more of adjustment for an organization that's going to be successful for the business, right? And successful for them. And that is what true transformational leadership is about. It's really about inspiring, leading, encouraging, and motivating others.
Mm-hmm. And what do you think are some of the characteristics that have made you really successful in your roles as a transformation leader?
For me, it's been, even through the School of Hard Knocks a little bit, but it has been the ability to be able to, one, read the room, and assess the situation, read the body language of the people. Whenever you're going in to do massive transformations, especially when you're going from anywhere from middle management
Mm-hmm.
and the individual contributor slash associate, is to make sure that you listen. And when I say listen, is seeking to understand, not necessarily seeking to respond right away. And it's getting their buy-in and listening to all of their care abouts, what their fears are, and the things that may come up as roadblockers, or they feel may be roadblockers or their fears to the transformation. It's the only way you start to get them to get the buy-in. So you may hear certain things like, we've been here before, we've tried this before, why now? Why is this leadership? Is this good for me? Is this trying to replace my job? Am I going to lose my job?
Right.
So when you have all of that, it allows you to take a step back and truly take a step back and listen. And then also, when you listen to them, this is now getting them to trust you as well.
Yeah. Fantastic. Thank you for sharing that. And so you've been in, as you said, a multitude of industries. You've been through so many types of transformations, agile transformations, mergers and acquisitions, scaling, redesigns, the one we were on together, especially around growth and revenue. What are some of the commonalities that you've seen that either lead to success or failure of these big transformations?
Depending on the size and the type of the transformation, the one thing that I would always say is make sure when you start with the executive leadership that wants a transformation is having the right sponsorship and making sure that, and I will say use a tool such as a business case about why and what the expectations are. Because if those expectations aren't set, then you have no way of knowing what's going to come out at the end, or what their true expectation of what is going to be at the end. So it's having that and getting everyone to agree on what that transformation is going to look like, how it's measured, how it's rewarded, what they intend to get from the business. And one of the biggest things when you start at the top is to make sure to have the difficult conversation of what I call what people want versus the results they're really seeking, which is a double-edged sword. And people may say, okay, well, isn't that the same thing? Rarely are they ever the same thing. And what I always ask executives, and I even have to have this conversation with myself, even in personal times, of what are the results that they really want to seek and want to get out of it versus now, what is it that they really want? Because again, everyone knows as you grow up in leadership, executives are taught really to look at data, assimilate things very quickly, make quick and sound decisions. So a lot of times they may have in their head of what it's going to take to get the results that they're asking for. Now, sometimes, many times throughout the course of the process, it may not look like those things. And so you have to ask them, are you stuck on what you want these things to happen in this course and in this order? Or are you really more worried about the result? Because you can get there, it just may take a different course or a different route. And that's a good recognition to have. And then creating what I call a contract for that change and getting everybody to sign up on it. You have to sign up for it. And I put it actually in their offices. Everybody gets a piece of it. So now we have something to go back to say what was scoped, what was agreed. And now you can share that and communicate that to your next set of middle management, which a lot of times is the thickest layer to get transformations through, because they're the ones that are the barrier between of making it happen with your individual contributors.
Yes.
And also, yeah, right. So they can actually help push it forward or they can help stall it out. So you have to always be aware of that.
Okay. That's excellent. All right. I love that technique. So another thing we talked about are the key elements that you feel are really needed for org design or a transformation to be successful. And you also kind of mentioned maybe a special secret sauce that you have that you've used on projects that have led to success. Can you share a little bit about that?
Sure. So there's lots of tools that you see. Of course, you need a business case. You need a program charter, right? Project charters. You need to have your RACI charts. You need to make sure that you have the right people in place. So let's just say you're doing a transformation that's really going to change the culture of the organization. The one more question is to ask, are we really ready for this, right? Does it go against everything that we've held true thus far? And you have to make sure that people are comfortable with making that adjustment. The next thing is to make sure you have these people in the play and to make sure that you have all these things lined out. Now, again, that's more of the tool sets and the methodologies behind it. The other thing I have, and what Kelly's referring to, we were having this conversation offline, is that some years ago, I actually came up with a model of my own, was because I started to find the same 3 elements of that always fades out when you're doing a transformation. And I kind of look at it like a triangle. I actually created the model like a triangle, almost like a recyclable triangle. And I call it the triple D model, or the triple D effect, if you will. And that goes with the first thing is actually making the decision. So everyone, they're quick to make a decision, right? Let's make a decision and everybody's moving forward. Everybody claps, yes. The next thing is communicating the direction. You have to communicate the direction well, and it has to be communicated throughout the chain, right? Not only saying this is what we're going to go do, but why? How did we get to that decision? And what's in it for everyone? And so that sometimes is where the leaks start to originally happen, because if it's not communicated well throughout the organization,
that's right,
people start to get confused. And now that's where the fear sets in, right? I don't understand why we're doing this. How's it going to really affect me? What do they really intend to get out of it? Is this just another song and dance? You get all those kind of fears. And then the third D is actually, once you make a decision and you communicate the direction effectively, it's actually holding the discipline to ensure it actually comes to fruition. That's probably the biggest leak. Exactly. Yeah. Why? Because life happens. As you're doing these transformations, your everyday business is still going. So you may have these little fires, these pop-ups, things happen, and people will get distracted very easily. So you have to hold the discipline to make sure that the transformation, the project or initiative itself does not fall apart. Now, that's not saying that things cannot change and things cannot pivot. You have to be flexible enough to have it to pivot. But when you do pivot, it's going back to now we made a decision to pivot. And now that cycle starts back over again, communicating the direction that we pivot, and we're going to pivot this way, and now hold the discipline to that pivot.
Yeah, I've seen so many transformations I've been on get stuck there, where everybody, you spend hours and months getting everybody aligned on the direction, and people are, and the communications are done, and you build change networks and you engage employees. And then when it comes to start the execution, something else, some new shiny object comes out of nowhere, or an edict from the street or the board or somewhere comes down, and we say we're going to do this, and then we end up going a different direction, and everyone's confused. And then the people lose confidence in the leadership and confidence in the transformation itself, which is very hard to get back once you've lost it. So
absolutely. I call it jerking their chain, right? Yeah. You start jerking people's chain, and after a while, they just tune you out. You only get probably about 2 tries with that off the bat. So you'll get maybe a misfire, maybe 2 misfires before people just will finally tune you out. And just a little backstory on the model I came up with the first time I actually showed it was I was a lot younger. I was a lot younger, a lot earlier in my career, and I'm in front of this huge VP, and his whole executive leadership team are in there, and he's liking what I'm showing. Made it simple to implement. Here are the key things we need to do. And he says, okay, got the decision. I'm communicating the direction. Got that. What's our biggest challenge? And I said, we have no discipline. And the whole room gasped. And I said, and I gasped to the point to where I was like, uh-oh, this man was going to get me tossed out. But he literally agreed. He listened. And actually after that, he became my biggest champion. And that was really where, to me, my career just really took a big boost with them. But it was just being honest and saying, now here's how we hold that discipline. And I'm here to help you do it.
Yep. That is incredibly powerful, that your triangle. So thank you for sharing that secret tool. with viewers today. So the last question that you and I were discussing was diversity. We know that's a very, very big topic these days. And you and I were talking about why it's so important to seek diversity on teams that are leading transformation. And so can you tell us a little bit about your experience with that and some tips that viewers should know around creating diversity and how diversity doesn't always equal inclusion?
Correct. So when you have the teams, that's the first thing I look for, is bringing in the diversity of the team. And the diversity of the team doesn't necessarily always mean what it looks like in the mirror, right? I also look for diversity of backgrounds, diversity of functional backgrounds, diversity of industry backgrounds. And because everybody's going to take a different view and vantage point. And that's where you get to utilize all the strengths and catch all the caveats and the risk. Just because I haven't seen it in the industries I've been in, it doesn't mean someone else on the team has not seen it. And now they can bring that to the forefront. And so you want that true diversity because everybody's going to hear it and see it differently, especially when it hits multiple areas and multiple stakeholders. So now they get to represent the caveats of how it's going to be heard, how it's going to be received, how it will impact them, good, bad, or indifferent. And so to also just not only bring them to the table to say my team's diverse, but also you have to have the inclusion. You have to value and allow them to speak up and to speak up candidly to get these things going. If they're not being heard, then guess what? There's no buy-in. No buy-in, you're not going to get it moved. Matter of fact, you're going to turn them into adversaries rather than advocates. So this is where the diversity really does become important. Everybody's going to see it through a different set of lenses. They're going to be able to talk a different language. For me, being a business leader, what I was able to do is take from every function and turn it into the old equator and equalize it all out. For our executives, it's now saying this is how it transformed into a business sense. Here's how it transformed into making money, saving money, or where it'd be risky, where it may cost us more money. And so that is where now you take all of those metrics, all of the angst, all of the true opportunities, and you show it now. This is where it turns into dollars and cents. When you have that, I was going to say, if you start to have, and Kelly and I talked about this before, you may have a diverse team, and which is great. And you may find where some of it's conflict, right? Productive conflict is great. Don't minimize that. When you have a conflict, always look at what the conflict is really about. Is it because of clash in diversity, clash in backgrounds, or is it just a personality difference, right? And this is where now I utilize, and a lot of people I'm sure in HR, is the SCARF model, SCARF. Take a look at it. It stands for status, certainty, autonomy, relatedness, and fairness. And a lot of times when people are combative, a lot of times because one of those key things have probably been stepped on by someone else. And if you recognize as a leader in a room, you can actually bring people back to the table and help them understand and help them be able to communicate better with each other.
Well, Tessa, that has been incredibly informative. I love that you brought up the SCARF model. I know a lot of our viewers know that model, have probably used that model. This has been incredibly informative. I thank you so much for your time. I'm sure our viewers got a lot out of it. I can't wait to hear any comments that people have. And are there any last tips or techniques you want to share before we close?
I would say that one, if you're leading big teams and you're doing transformation, whether it's your primary role or non-primary role, or you become truly a champion of them, and I've been on both sides of that house, is also understand your people's strengths and weaknesses, because it also goes to the play of, do you have the right people in place? So, and when you talk about strengths and weaknesses, it's not just about, you want to focus more on the strengths, and the strengths are not their competencies. So I'm a big proponent of the strength finder. So understand that if you need a more strategic mindset, it's not about, no matter how smart they are, don't bring in a tactical person. They're never going to move in that manner.
Right.
And vice versa. So it's really understanding those strengths and how they operate to be able to leverage and get the most out of the team, because transformations are not for the faint of heart. They are tough. Yeah. The organizational design is tough. Yeah. Anything that constitutes any type of adjustment may freak people out. So it's really paying attention and just really knowing and understanding the room, the body language, and the overall big picture. And again, getting people to trust you. You may be able to change how people think, pretty quickly, but the true heart of transformation is about hitting the belief system.
Yeah.
You have to get in where they believe, and they believe in it. If they don't believe in it, it's a very tough road. So that's one of, I would say, the main things to always keep in front of you is how do you get them to believe?
All right. Well, thank you so much, Tessa, for joining us today. You are our first master, and we are so grateful to have you and your wisdom. Viewers, I hope everybody has enjoyed today's episode of Master Tips and Techniques. We will be releasing one of these probably every 2 to 3 weeks. With a master in the field. If you know somebody that you want to recommend to be interviewed, please IM me through the Institute of Applied Organizational Design and Transformation's LinkedIn group. You can find it just by typing that in. And please join us or recommend friends to join us. Again, as I said, we're going to be launching our website. We're again taking everything online. We did our trainings primarily in person because of the nature of the work, but we have figured out how to take our courses online and also create a cohort. There will be one per year where we'll have at least 12, probably actually max 12 individuals who will go through an intensive 9-month simulation applied process and receive a certificate of organizational transformation and design when they complete it. So you can learn more on our website. The website is Institute Applied ODT. That's Oscar Dog and Team.com. So instituteappliedodt.com. Hope you'll visit us. Thank you for joining, and we hope to see you next week. Thanks, Tessa.
Thank you.
All right, everybody. Bye.